Hello, welcome to Dee Code. We are decoding the Heptarchia Mystica. If you don't know what the Heptarchia Mystica, the Dee Code, or John Dee is, please check out the introduction to this video series. This is progressive. So we cover all of these things in previous lectures, so please do check those out. The decode hypothesis is relatively simple. There are coded messages within the Sloan 3191 manuscript that are not publicly decoded and are relevant directly to the traditions of Enochian Magic and indirectly to our historic understanding of the British Empire, which is the empire that covered the globe and established a world of colonization that we are still suffering from now. So I feel as if dealing with some of this code may actually bring about healing of the imperialism or colonialization. This hypothesis is based on Dee's documented fascination with codes, as well as significant historic precedents for code in angel communication and temple furniture that looks like Enochian temple furniture. So the implication here is that it's likely a system of encoding and enciphering messages in addition to being simply the direct means of angel communication that many Enochian practitioners have known and loved for centuries, even without decoding any of this. So it involves multiple dimensions of meaning and encipherment, that all of which have historic precedent, but involve geometry, number, art, feeling, alchemy, magic, angel communication. And I think actually you may have to engage with the non-human intelligences frequently understood or called as the Enochian angels, even to hold within your mind these rather complex mental constructions. Anyways, so we are talking about the Sloan manuscript 3191. This is a notebook that John Dee wrote 4 books into. He compiled the previous communications that were recorded in the spirit diaries, took them, put them into a new form, and added some chapters, made really precise drawings and communications. The manuscript contains 4 books: the 48 Angelic Keys, the Book of Earthly Science, Aid, and Victory, on the mystic heptarchy, and the invocations of the good angels. So we are focused, and I'm specifically focused on the mystic heptarchy, which is called the Heptarchia Mystica. So this is where I am saying there is definitely a code from my own intuition or feeling. There's likely much more involved. It likely involves the entire book, but I'm focused explicitly on De Heptarchia Mystica. So De Heptarchia Mystica has 7 chapters. Surprise, surprise. First chapter is of the title, general contents, and some testimonies. Then second one is about John Dee, his principle in a manner of peculiar interest, the doctrine heptarchical. Then the third chapter, some remembrance of the furniture and circumstances. This will be very familiar from people who have read the spirit diaries. This is like quotes. Same thing with chapter 4 is some quotes regarding what these angels look like, appear as, and how they present some of the tables of letters. Chapter 5 is what clued me off to there's a code. Chapter 5 is the Oratory Prayer used as the foundation or start of the heptarchical exercise or working. Chapter 6 offers the invocations to the heptarchical prince and the heptarchical king, the prince and king of that day. And then chapter 7 has some recitals and consultation of office, words, and deeds of the heptarchical kings and princes. These really explain who they are, what they do. There's anomalies here, like some of the pages are completely missing, or sections are missing. Some have different names than what have been presented before, which is a clue there's enciphered or encoded messages. We really have to assume with this book, particularly with Sloan 3191, as opposed to 3188, which is more of a notebook, this is actually intentional. It's not by accident that anything here is in the book. And if you look through the manuscript, you can tell by the precision of his writing. All right, so the literal meaning of De Heptarchia Mystica is that it appears to be a personal grimoire of John Dee, serving as a reference for the ceremonial magic of the heptarchical workings. So chapter 5 offers the Oratory Prayer, which is to be recited 3 times a day. Generally understood to be the ritual, to be instructions for the ceremonial rituals. This is a rather long experience, and 3 times a day is verging on an hour of reading out loud these prayers, actually. They are rather hard to read. So the prayer of chapter 5 is followed by the prayers of chapter 6, which are invocations of the heptarchical king and prince, described in chapter 4 and enumerated in chapter 7. So that gives you a sort of orientation. It goes, hey, here's the furniture you need, here's the prayers you do, here's the invocations, and this is what these angels are like, so that you can call on them to do what is described in chapter 7. So I hope that makes sense. So it's basically like you say, hey, I want to work with an angel that understands water. And so this is the implication. One of the implications around John Dee is that he used this magical system to sink the Spanish Armada, or to provide the advantage of the British in the in that conflict. So it happened twice, apparently. And so in this case, you might understand, like if you were using this system like a magic system, you would do you'd set up the temple, you'd do chapter 5 Oratory Prayer, then you would do chapter 6 invocating prayer of either the king or prince. And this, I believe, is of Tuesday. John Dee talks a lot about knowing this angel and working with this angel, actually, associated with water. So that's the implication, is that he used this system, this prayer, to either gain information or advantage, or to cause the sinking of the Spanish Armada. There are some considerations I would put forward to you. So Trithemis in his Stenographia demonstrates the use of strange angel names to encrypt plain text. The ceremonial ritual itself is to be performed within an Enochian temple, which, if we look to the historic precedents, is actually more like a 3D cipher key than any other type of magical practice. We see that John Dee carefully wrote and inked the manuscripts, the 3191 manuscript, indicating that the blank sections in the odd prose, which is sometimes very hard to read, is intentional and not incidental. Right? You can get to an understanding of John Dee's intelligence in terms of how he writes when you look to, say, his preface to Euclid. He's very smart in how he presents Euclid to the public. Similarly with Monas Hieroglyphica, similarly he is very intentional and capable of writing prose that is effective. And so having the chapter 5 prayer, which is an awful prose, it's terrible to read, it's hard to make sense of, it is out of character for Dee. So, and also, please do consider that Dee is known to create codes, such as in the Monas Hieroglyphica or Shakespeare's sonnets. So, I want to focus the inquiry around the Dee Code, at least for myself, to De Heptarchia Mystica, right? So, Dee's work is vast, strange, and complex. There is a rich tradition of magic and scholarship around it. The codes themselves are expressive of the Renaissance worldview, as not the modern worldview, which is inclusive of this holistic way of thinking. I myself have followed intuitive guidance and dreams in my inquiry. I did not go out to say, hey, there's a code here. every time I encountered codes, I said, oh, I'm very bad with Scrabble. I don't like crosswords. I'll just let someone else figure this out, and I'll just do the prayers as they make sense, as it makes sense to me. And the angels themselves literally pointed to the codes, which is one of the stranger experiences. I literally have been working on this text for maybe like 5 months straight, reading and rereading De Heptarchia Mystica, reading supporting texts and things like that. I was guided to some of the clues I've shared with you. And then only very recently did I say, you know what, I am going to go through this prayer. I'm going to go through the Heptarchia Mystica as if it were a performance of ceremonial magic, as if I can do it the best. I'll just run through it. And I threw on my Holy Lamon, I threw on my Ring of Pele, I said the prayers, I invoked King Kamara. And King Kamara basically said, yes, this is a coded message. You need to document why you think this is, and share this. That's it. Don't solve it. Share it. And so I'm literally doing what the angels have told me. For the last 3 days straight, I've had dreams of light and of angelic communication that have literally just, I wake up from, and I write these slides, and I'm doing this and doing what they tell me. So I just needed to say that my inquiry is focused in this way, and some of the reasons why I'm focusing the inquiry of the Decode in this way. All right, so the Oratory Prayer, this is it. And this is from Sloan 3191, chapter 5 of De Heptarchia Mystica. Look how beautiful. Look how beautiful the cryptography is. Look how strange those capital letters are. Right? You know, you pull out those bolded capitals, you might actually have a cipher key, right? Or a clue or something like that. It is exquisitely written and carefully written in terrible text. So I'm just taking the first paragraph. This is pulled from esotericarchives.com. So we've got Oratio, this is oratory, prayer, ad diem to God, singulis debus, each day, tribus, visibus, 3 times, ter, 3, descenda, to be spoken. So that's the title. 3 times per day, said 3 times per day, each day. Right? That's a really strange instruction. Almighty, eternal, the true and hewing God, O King of God, King of glory, O Lord of hosts, O thou, the creator of heaven and earth, and of all things visible and invisible, now, even now, at length. That is really important. Now, even now, at length. That I think is a clue. Among others, at manifold mercy used and to be used, towards me, thy simple servant, John Dee, I most humbly beseech thee in my present petition to have mercy upon me, to have pity upon me, to have compassion upon me, who faithfully and sincerely of long time have sought among men and earth, and also by prayer full oft and pitifully have made suit unto thy divine majesty for the obtaining of some convenient portion of true knowledge and understanding of thy laws and ordinances, established in the natures and proprieties of thy creature, by which knowledge thy divine wisdom, power, and goodness, etc., for probably 5 more minutes of oratory prayer, like this, right? So why is chapter 5 the focus? Why is this the clue? The prose is choppy. It's hard to follow. In a way that scholars have frequently simplified it in their translations. They go, this is hard to follow, I've simplified it. So this is actually central to Enochian Magic by way of the temple furniture. Right? The understanding and relationship with the mystical heptarchy actually does generate the temple furniture. And it actually does serve as a bridge from existing magical practice into Enochian practice. This involves terrestrial and not angelic scripts, or can be directly translated into terrestrial, aka Latin scripts. So Dee often worked with the temple furniture and everything up until the point of this De Heptarchia Mystica in in Latin script that then would be translated into the angelic script after that revelation. So this is a sort of halfway point between full-on Enochian and normal terrestrial magics. So Dee also had time. He had about a year to compose codes in this book after receiving the angelic systems via the actions, right? So he received them from via Kelly from the angels. He had a year to produce this book. They've got funny capitalizations that I pointed to, as well as the repetition of strange phrases like late but not too late. And that just is so clear to me. And I would say also the instructions of Prayer 5 gives a numeric procedure, an arithmetic procedure to be performed, a cryptographic procedure to be performed 3 times, a permutation upon text associated with the days. It's not to be said, it's to be performed or whatever. So, all right, so what if the chapter heading is coded instructions? 3 times a day. It might mean that the coded instructions contained within the Chapter 5 Oratory Prayer are to be applied to texts associated with the days, not as a prayer on each day saying it out loud, right? So you go through each day, which does actually have cryptographic tables associated with them. So you're not invoking like setting up the ground to invoke King Kamara. You're looking to King Kamara's cryptographic table to decipher it in this permutable way 3 times a day. And so it's really important to know also that the days are associated in the De Heptarchia Mystica text with possible, the Sigillum de Ameth, which is understood to be a possible cipher disk, actually. So there's a phrase called the heptagonon stellar that emerges up and out in the early chapters of De Heptaginosis Mystica, which has the sigils of the heptarchical powers upon it. That is a congruent star shape that can fit directly onto the Sigillum de Ameth. Right? Wow, that's really a clue. And if we need a further clue that the system of cryptography put forward in De Heptaginosis Mystica relates to the Sigillum de Ameth, we can see that the sigils of the heptarchical kings include angel names that we've derived together in the Sigillum de Ameth. So they go, oh, here's a derivation, right? So we derive the angel names from the sevenfold tables, or, the sevenfold tables derives those angel names. So those angel names are then placed upon the sigils of the heptarchical kings. There's a clear correspondence there that this is just, and those can fit directly onto this cipher disk. So we're getting to the meat of the presentation here, which is the predictions of a hypothesis that there is encoded message, right? So we're not just saying, oh, this looks like ciphertext. It does look like ciphertext, right? But I'm going to make some predictions here that may be relevant to the experience, right? So the prediction number 1, there is a stenographic message, aka in the style of Trithemis, in chapter 5 of De Heptarchia Mystica. It contains decryption instructions to be applied to the texts and tables associated with the days in a way that's permuted 3 times a day, right? The corrupted 7x7 grid may also be conclusively completed. This is presented in Sloan manuscript 3188, and that is it's the strange 7x7 table. It's the center of the table is all B's with 1 through 49 written out, and the table above that, the 2 tables above that, have been corrupted through missing, like moth-eaten or something. We can complete that after this. I will predict. I will predict a correspondence between the stellar heptagonon, by way at least of the heptarchical king sigils, with the angel, the derivation of the angel names as presented on the Sigillum de Ameth. And then finally, I will predict that the blank sections within chapter 7 will make sense. as well as the incongruent angel names with the days. That will make sense. Those are clues. I have some speculations. I speculate that the code phrase, at length but not too late, is involved. I've seen this, it happens 3 times through, I believe, throughout the manuscript, and is weird. And I had a dream after invoking some of these guys that told me so. So I'm adding that in. I will speculate this as another dimension of meaning to the tables. And so it's really important to know that the decoded message will not essentially change your connection you have with the angels, but may actually change our understanding of the historic and cultural world. So I'm not saying that this code diminishes your connection with the angels. I'm saying that it may actually add another dimension to that relationship you're already nourishing. And so that's really important to know. So what about Enochian Magic, right? If there is a code, what about it? So Enochian Magic seems to work. Wouldn't that mean there's no code, right? So the thing that everyone says is, like, Enochian Magic works. You just start working it. So that means, right, like there might not be a coded message to be essential there. We may be missing the point. The angels have told to me that they assist us in ways that we are worthy of receiving assistance. The worthiness usually comes from applying mindfulness, positive intention, and a lot of work focusing on this. They say to me that they are assisting my own personal practice, that my understanding of the proportions of the temple furniture are off. They correct for it through significant use of energy on their side. They give me instructions almost all the time to study more Enochian and to correct my Enochian temple so that it is not a burden to them to communicate with me. Maybe that's why they're talking to me about the codes here. Maybe we're doing it wrong. Maybe it'd be easier for them if we use the system that they are telling us to use in the way that makes sense to them, not us. But let's continue. If there are codes, wouldn't mean the practitioners were doing it wrong. Like I said, it may actually be a correction or an addition of meaning. There is tremendous meaning that has come out of this communication, and it may actually not be the point at all to decode in the way. Maybe this decoding process actually is an invitation to healing and presence rather than solving a puzzle. So what if there's no code, and what if it's a wild goose chase? And I say actually it would be insane to say there's no code. It's just there's no, it's very, very clear that this is cryptographic, that there is encoded material, that there's historic precedent for this. Please explain to me how John Dee could spend 1 year composing 3191 De Heptarchia Mystica and that chapter 5 prayer, write it so beautifully, and have such terrible prose. Just tell me how that's possible. Compare it with his other literature. Do a comparative literature thing. This is, if it's not a code, he's pretending there is one there. So, and that's meaningful in its own right to discover and explore. So some responses to my experience to these questions. King Kamara told me about the code the first time I invoked him. My dreams guide this inquiry, not my cleverness with codes. I am not clever with crosswords, nor am I with Scrabble, and I'd much rather not really engage all of that. But the angels tell me to work with this and to share this awareness. So the entire system of Enochian seems to be derivable from our subconscious mind, right? John Dee and Edward Kelly's, or collective unconscious, or the angels. Whether or not it's the angels, unconscious, made up, or whatever, it seems to me equally as magical, right? So another response is, I'm making good art with this, I think. I'm having a good time, and I'm learning a lot along the way. And finally, one of my experiences really do point to this record, this Enochian stuff, may actually be first contact for the modern world with extraterrestrials or non-human intelligences in a way that's documented, in a way that provides us tools for communication. So there's really a tremendous amount to be gained by exploring this code, if it really was contact with a higher order being or an extra dimensional being, right? They might be waiting for us to decode this together to send a response back for a much deeper engagement. I mean, this might be like the movie Contact, and it actually has a lot of similarities to it, aka sacred geometry, aka enciphered text that requires a different dimension, aka the presentation of non-human others through human personas. So there's a lot to be said here. So, all right, invitations to action. Please read the chapter 5 prayer 3 times. Or if you want, you can read it 3 times a day, 3 times each day for 63 readings. You can try out the heptarchical ritual. Go do the oratory prayer, do the invocations, read aloud from chapter 7 and 4 regarding that. That's what I've been doing. I'm also working with Frater RC through his Experimentia Heptarchica, which is a really beautiful way that doesn't deal with any of the codes, but is actually a traditional way of engaging in angelic communication and magic that will be a beautiful way. I'm really appreciating the honor and respect he gives to this material. And so it's sort of balancing my kind of like, maybe there's a code here. It's like, actually there's potency and reverence and holiness in this communication that's really communicated. So I would recommend you checking out his e-course. That's the Hermetic Mystery School. And then finally, you can join the e-course with me here at Deecode.org for guided meditations, deep dives into the topic, and practice videos and Q&As. So I will offer some of my own promotions. If you're going through the lecture series, you can go to the next one or you can listen. Decode.org offers this course, this lecture series, this information related to John Dee. Cosmic Dream Sanctuary offers my dream work and hypnosis practice based on Western esoteric and mindfulness traditions. D-SETI.org offers dreamwork sessions and training regarding extraordinary and anomalous experiences like ET contact or NHI contact in dreams. This is a research-based perspective. And Dreamwell, that dreamwellbewell.com is a mobile app to help you sleep, dream, and be well. It's mindfulness training. There's a dream journal and guided meditations to really help you deepen your practice. So thank you for tuning in to this Decode. I hope this can be fun for you. I hope that you're not disappointed. I am not sharing with you what that code is. I am really hoping to invite participation in this decoding process and to do it together as a collective, because we actually need to heal from some of the impacts of receiving this code itself. Right? We have to actually heal from some of the impacts and implications of the interactions John Dee had with the modern world through the British Empire. And that is some of the most important and magical work we can do together. So thank you for the courage to approach this rather strange matter. And I really hope to see you along the path of discovery.